topic of Facebook ad strategy and balancing short versus long term is something that really has developed over many years of me running Facebook ads and really doing a lot of testing. This isn't really me reading blog posts or maybe inspired by some blog posts throughout the years, but really this is testing inside of ad accounts to really understand what truly works best with actual ad spend and data from my clients. And so my clients have been gracious enough to allow me to use a number of different case studies. I actually have 3 case studies from my actual clients. And we'll actually go through those case studies and see the results. And you'll also get to see my first attempts at building out some of their funnels. Usually it's a full balanced funnel that I try to go with. And then you'll realize that actually some brands need a short-term strategy or others need a long-term strategy. So I'm very excited to present this to you all today. All right, so getting into the presentation, a bit about our company. So we're based in Portland, Oregon. We're a boutique agency, so we're a bit smaller on the smaller side. And I'm pretty hands-on in the agency, so I do a ton of client work, really trying to optimize accounts, really in the weeds with my clients. And so there's an arrow there, so you can see where we're located in the entire world. And so we work with a number of different clients. We worked with some billion-dollar clients, at least valued at $1 billion, like Magic Eden, which is an NFT marketplace, and Bulletproof Coffee. Most of our clients are in the mid-range size, so like Ridgecrest Herbals, they're like in Whole Foods, LearnDash, which is a WordPress plugin. And then we do have some smaller clients like PCS Grades, Priest Ranch, which is like a winery. They have about $1 million in revenue, which is like our smallest clients have at least 7 figures or more to really do the testing that we need to do and to go on for the amount of time that we need for the test to run to really see results. And that doesn't mean that if you have a client that's under $1 million, you can still run these tests. It just might mean that you might have smaller budgets and you might have to run those budgets for a longer amount of time to get statistical significance within the ad account to then try your next test inside of Facebook ads. So just something to be aware of. All right, so this next section is really make sure that you're set up for success. Before we can worry about funnels or any of that stuff, really we need to know definitions for this presentation, the use of AI, do you use it or do you not? Little things like that. So getting into this section, the first definition is long versus short, and what is considered short term. So anything under 6 months for this presentation is considered a short term strategy. So you need some revenue very quickly within the next 6 months. So we'll call that short term for this case. And then on the long term side, if you need revenue, anytime after 6 months or longer, it could be multiple years. Then that'll be our definition for long term. And then this next definition, I'm sure we all have heard of this term before, return on ad spend, ROAS. And so just threw this in here, revenue divided by costs equals our return on ad spend. And so that's the primary KPI I use with clients is really our return on ad spend. And that's all I really care about is our efficiency at which we spend the budget and what are we getting out of it. If we spend $1 million and get $1 million back, sure, we made a lot of money, but I need the efficiency of the money to be at a really high level. So I'm always reporting on this. And in this presentation, you'll see the ROAS is like the main number that I use to determine success for each case study that you'll see later. And then the next definition is cost per acquisition. So pretty simple, just our cost divided by number of purchases. Equals our cost per acquisition or CPA. And then last definition is cost per 1,000 views or our CPM, cost per milli. Cost divided by overall impressions. So that gives a small number and then you times it by 1,000 and that gives us our cost per 1,000 views or impressions. So you'll see this in the presentation as well, CPMs. So just make sure we're all on the same page. We know the definitions. All right, so getting into the next part of this section. And AI is a big topic. It's a hot topic right now. Everyone's using it. And I really wanted to give best practices from what I've seen on the use of AI. And so my impression of AI is it's not quite smart enough for like really important things. Like, how do you optimize your campaign? Who are you optimizing audiences for? And other smaller things like letting AI choose the music for your ads. It's just not quite there yet. And so I actually opt out of all the AI. And I've actually had quite a few client accounts where I was testing it, right? So this is over the last maybe 7 months. And I had some client accounts using AI, and I had another batch not using AI. And so I noticed that all the client accounts that did not use AI that I opted out are performing substantially better. And the ones that had AI, they are not doing well inside of Facebook ads / Meta ads. And so really just keeping that in mind, at this point, I've decided to opt out of all AI. I even had one ad account that had 2 campaigns that was using no AI, so opted out. And then there was a third campaign that was using AI. So the account was basically split, some AI, no AI. And the 2 campaigns that was not using AI was performing way better in terms of ROAS. And the clients were making way more money off of the non-AI campaigns versus the single campaign that was using AI. And so my impression is that at this point in time, I think that Facebook is just trying to collect as much data as possible through the ad accounts and through your ad spend. I think Facebook is collecting all of that data and is trying to train the AI. And so until the AI gets smarter, it can train it on everyone else's data. But at this point, I need results from my clients. So I opt out of it. So how do you do this? How do you opt out of AI? Facebook's definitely going to try to like push you into it. So it's going to try to have you set up a Advantage Plus shopping campaign. It's going to be automatically highlighted when you try to create a new campaign. So you can see the red box at the top. Do not select that. It will be selected, but in this view where the green box is, make sure you select that choice for a manual sales campaign. And that's assuming you want sales or purchases as your primary KPI. Most clients do. So make sure you just select manual sales campaign at the bottom. And that's the first thing you want to do. So even after you've selected a manual sales campaign, Facebook is then going to add all this AI automatically across all of your ad sets and your ads. So you need to go into that manual campaign and then find the AI and then turn it off. So the first part is Advantage Plus audiences. So it'll be automatically turned on. Anything with an Advantage Plus in front of it means it's AI. So you'll need to switch to original audience options. So you'll click that. This is at the ad set level. So each of your ad sets will have this. So on the left side, you can see it says switch to original audience options. You'll click that button and then it'll open up another box and then click use original audience. And the way that they highlight the blue, use Advantage Plus audience, you can tell that they definitely want the blue button to be clicked, but make sure you use original audience. Can't stress that enough. And then finally, go to the ad levels, to each of your ads, and then you'll want to go to where it says Advantage Plus Creative, and there's an edit button. Click that button, and then go into basically where it shows all of your advanced previews of your ads. And there's a music section in there, and you'll want to turn the music off. I've had clients where this is automatically on, so I didn't notice it at first. And so the client would reach out to me and say, hey, there's Spanish music playing for ads to promote donations for schools in Texas, which is one of my clients. And Spanish music just didn't quite fit with what we were trying to do. We had spent so much time curating the copy and the imagery, and then Spanish music was just put on top of our ads. So if you want to avoid this weird mix mosh of random selection of music, make sure you turn off the Advantage Plus music. It's definitely not a good experience. So that's my thoughts on AI. Just turn it all off for now. I think in the future, it could get smarter with other people's data, and then you can opt back into it. But at this point, I don't see the results there. But I do think there is potential for AI in the future. All right, so lastly, getting into some short-term versus long-term strategies. So you can see on the left side, there's paid search, paid social, which is what we'll focus on today with Facebook/Meta ads. You can also do some discounting as well. And then on the long term, there's SEO, public relations, organic social, loyalty programs, and affiliate marketing. Really paid social can go on the long-term side, but typically it's viewed as more of a short-term channel. And then right in the middle, there's balance between all of these channels. And so ideally, you would use a mix of short-term and long-term to find your balance. But for this presentation, we're just going to stay within the Facebook ads world. And then how do you do a short-term versus long-term strategy strictly within Facebook ads? So then I guess the question is, well, which is better, short-term or long-term? So let's compare that. All right, so getting into the short-term strategy, what does that look like? Okay, so really I like to think of it as what does the funnel look like, to be honest. And so the funnel is broken up into 3 parts. We have top, middle, and bottom of funnel. And for our top of funnel, it's awareness. So impressions, clicks, sessions to the website. And I'm sure we all know this. Middle of the funnel is our consideration. So emails are being collected. People are adding things to cart. They're requesting demos. They're starting to consider the brand, but not necessarily made a purchase or anything like that. Not quite yet. And then for bottom of the funnel is a conversion takes place or a purchase. And so the top and middle of the funnel, so awareness and consideration are red, which means we're not focused on that for short term. For short term, we want to pull in revenue as quickly as possible. And that's why the bottom of the funnel is the only green part in this slide. So what does that really mean in terms of like strategy wise for short term? So revenue is the key. Secondary KPIs are not as important. So like I just mentioned, the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, not quite as important. We'll spend budgets. When I'm doing a short-term kind of play for one of my clients, I'm spending budgets very spontaneously. If something's not working, I will spend the budget and I back away from it very quickly. We spin up the next campaign and we just try to find revenue as quickly as possible. And I might spend very inconsistently. I try to let it go for 2 weeks. And maybe after like a week, if I'm seeing like a 0.5 ROAS, I know it has a long road to climb to get to at least a 2 ROAS is what I typically want to see for my clients, for them to have some margin, make some money, etc. So if I'm not seeing that within a week, we're still kind of below a 1 ROAS, I might just turn the campaign off pretty quickly, and then we move into the next campaign. And then discounting is huge. So offering those big discounts, 20, 30%, you'll get huge spikes in revenue and you'll get it very quickly. It does diminish the brand a little bit if you use discounts too often, but at least you get your revenue, right? Like that's the main goal is revenue and quick revenue. So it's kind of sacrificing tomorrow to get today's revenue and purchases. So I have a few brands that I feel have done a really good job with their short-term strategy. So the first is a company named Protalis, which I actually worked there for a year, and they sell high-end insoles. They're doing about $18 million a year in revenue. So they're a pretty good sized brand, and they offered a 30% evergreen discount across all their products on their entire website. So at any point you could go to their website and you'll see that the prices strike through. So it's already a nice discount. It's pretty solid. And then when you make it to checkout, they'll give an additional 15% that stacks on top of the 30%. So you're really saving almost 50% on any purchase at any given point in time. So their margins aren't the best, but it helped them grow to $18 million. And they're I would say, fairly healthy company. They have some struggles, but they're pretty healthy. And then the next example is Pretty Little Thing. So it's a fast fashion brand. And so they did a 100% off 2021 Black Friday sale. And really the goal of the sale was for people to see 100% off certain products. So only a percentage of people got the 100% off on the sale. And then once people got to the website but missed the 100% off part of the sale, they at least want to buy something. So they would buy something else for like 25% off for that sale. So that works really well. And, just massive sales like that is a great way to generate quick revenue, and you'll see massive revenue. But you have to really be strategic on when you give those sales out. All right, so let's apply this using Facebook ads, using a real example. So we use one of my actual clients. So this first case study is a brand called Cocalero, and they have a partnership with Resident Evil. And so Resident Evil is like a video game. They also have some Netflix shows, etc. And so the Cocalero brand is it's a spirits brand that uses Cocalero leaves, which is the same leaf you'd use to make cocaine, but you don't get the same effects. So it's a little different in that way. And so their main focus was add to carts, begin checkouts, and online purchases. But really just purchases. Me as a marketer, I care about the add to carts and the begin checkouts because it's a proxy to become a purchaser of the product. So I need to see like how many add to carts, how many begin checkouts, and then how many purchases, and were there breakdowns along that path from add to cart to purchase. But really for the client, they just care about purchases. So this funnel shows our first attempt at developing the funnel for Cocalero. And I have it broken out into top, middle, and bottom of funnel. And so when you see that it's bold, so you can see like website sessions is bold, that's what that part of the funnel is optimizing for inside of Facebook ads. So we had one top of funnel campaign that's optimizing for website sessions. And the nice part about that is when we optimize for website sessions, we are getting a lot of people to the website, and then we just put a ton of cookies onto computers, right? And then that allows us to then retarget them and then bring them back to the website. And then that fuels the middle of the funnel in terms of the audience size. And then that fuels the bottom of funnel audience size. So that top of funnel campaign, really just trying to get cookies onto computers. And then for the middle of funnel campaign, we are optimizing for add to carts and begin checkouts. And then for bottom of funnel, really trying to optimize for just purchases. So the person would see at least 3 ads before they would purchase in this first attempt. And you can see that the top of funnel part is green, which is great, which means it worked out. We saw the result that we wanted. We're getting a lot of sessions very cheaply. The rate at which we're getting sessions and the cost per session was great. For middle of funnel, add to carts and checkouts, it started to become very expensive. And then for the bottom of funnel, it was wildly expensive, unsustainable, and the client wasn't happy at this point. So we took it back to the drawing board, listened to what the client said that they wanted, and they kept emphasizing we need revenue and we need it fast and now. So what we did was instead of a 3-part funnel, we just took all of those campaigns that made up each part of the funnel, and we just consolidated them into a single funnel. So one single campaign, that's it. The client was spending about $3,000 per month, which is a decent budget, but we wanted to consolidate all the campaigns so we can exit the learning phase. We wanted to really make sure we exit it to really have a single campaign running at the highest level possible, instead of 3 campaigns, splitting the budget across those 3 campaigns, and all 3 campaigns don't exit learning. So that was a big piece of the strategy. And then optimizing for purchases. The client told us purchases are most important. So we said, we'll optimize for that KPI then. And then really opening up the targeting. So we did broad targeting, just United States, 21 plus years old, all genders. And here's what the new funnel looks like. So this bottom of funnel campaign, really it's just optimizing for purchases. I know there's more in there. There's website sessions, add to carts, checkouts, purchases. And so this single campaign had to pull someone from their first session to add to cart, to begin checkout, and then make the purchase. So it's a lot of pressure for a single campaign to do that. And so here's the results of that single campaign that we ran. So we spent about $17,000. So it's a decent budget. It's not extremely large, but it's a good size. CPMs, we were lucky enough to have lower CPMs, so looks great. 3.7% click-through rate. Typically, I'm looking for a 1%. So the engagement of the ads means the copy and the creative was on point. People are resonating with it at a high rate, so they're clicking it. That was great. Cost per acquisition was pretty cheap. And we made about $64,000 off the $17,000 we spent, which gives us a 3.8 ROAS. So 3.8, it's great. The client's happy. If the client's happy, I'm happy. And this is what the entire funnel looks like in terms of the ROAS. So everything looks great, and that's how we currently still run it for the client. At any given point, at the most, we have 2 campaigns running for this client to this day. They've been a client for a couple of years now. And the only reason we might introduce the second campaign is because the first campaign that pulls the person all the way through the funnel is starting to have audience fatigue. And we'll see that after maybe 8-9 months at that $3,000 per month ad spend. And if the fatigue starts to really build, then we need the next campaign to kind of pull people out of that first campaign and into the next campaign. And then we maintain our ROAS as we go. And there's dips sometimes. The transition isn't smooth, but that's tended to work very well for the client. All right, so we just covered short-term strategies. Next is long-term. Okay, so long-term basically looks the opposite of short-term, obviously. And so we're very focused on our awareness. So we're looking for impressions, clicks, sessions to the website. And we also have a focus on middle of the funnel, so consideration, right? So maybe some emails are being collected, maybe people are adding to cart, maybe some demo requests. So we can optimize for those things. And then at the very bottom of the funnel is purchases. And it's red because we're not necessarily focused on that. It's great if we get some purchases, but that's not the key that we're trying to pursue with Facebook ads. So in terms of strategy, what does that look like? So typically when I'm doing like a long-term approach, I'm doing way more testing. So I'm looking for incremental gains. I'm not looking for a home run, just lots of just little gains that will build up over time. And you'll look back after like 6 months and you're like, wow, we've come a long ways off of these little tweaks that we've made. And these incremental gains could be found in different types of creative or just adjusting the copy. You could be more creative with what you're optimizing for. So maybe you're optimizing against someone clicking a very specific CTA, and that could be like an audience that you're building, and that CTA is a proxy for something lower in the funnel, and you have the space to test that out. Very little budgeting, and I would say that's required to build a strong brand. You don't want to give out too many discounts. It definitely diminishes the brand when you give out tons of discounts, and really taking the long-term approach to try to build the brand itself without using discounts as like a crutch. And then also operating at a loss today to focus on the brand positioning of the future. And so usually you need a little bit more like a larger company to do this. Smaller businesses can't really operate at a loss today. To just like focus on their brand positioning, they need some immediate revenue. But if you are working with like maybe a mid-sized brand or something like that, then you might have the ability to focus on some of your brand positioning. And like, for example, like Amazon. So Amazon was operating at a loss for 9 years, right? And they're just focused on brand positioning and just trying to get that right. And they're not focused on revenue. And it was a very long-term play. And look where it's gotten them today as one of the most well-known businesses in the world. So an example of brands that I feel have done a really good job at their long-term strategy is Ferrari. They tend to be more luxury brands, to be honest. So Ferrari, they put all these barriers in the way. And when you look at the barriers to get a Ferrari, you think to yourself, why would anyone ever do this? And the reason is that they've really built their brand, and they weren't focused on money at first. And if anything, they'll even tell you, we don't need your money. You need to follow our rules, and then we'll accept your money. So Ferrari, first you need the money to buy it. Sometimes for some Ferraris, you need to have owned one before you can get a special edition Ferrari. There's an age requirement sometimes, which seems like could be against the law, ageism. And then if you use a garage that's not within their approved garages, you could void your whole warranty. So there's a ton of requirements for Ferrari, and they really built their brand using long-term strategies. And the next is Gucci. And so the bag on the left, so that bag costs about $1,300. It was deconstructed by a leather expert, and it only costs $115 to actually make the bag and then the materials for the bag as well. So same concept here. Why would anyone pay $1,300 for a bag that really should cost $115? And that's because Gucci has built their brand. They built it over many, many decades, and that's the reward they get for not discounting or diminishing the value of the bag. All right, so let's apply this using an actual Facebook ads account. So this is one of my clients. They're called Somerston Estate. And so they're based in Napa Valley, California. And they offer really expensive wine. So each of these bottles are at least 150. So it's a very specific demographic that they need to hone in and target and bring into the fold. And so the main goal for this brand is booked reservations. So they want an individual with high disposable income to show up and have a wine tasting. And so usually you have to book online for your wine tasting in advance. Second is online purchases, of course. And then lastly is club memberships. Everyone wants more club members at their winery. So those are all important KPIs. And the client had mentioned that all three is great. They'd love to see all three. These are all bottom of funnel actions. And then one other thing to note is for booked reservations, the one on the left, we ran into an issue where we couldn't track the actual booked reservation because the reservations would take place in a third-party website. So we use the clicks on the website. You can see the red circles. We use that as a proxy for someone who has intent to purchase, and we would optimize for that. Because of the cross-domain tracking, we just had issues and couldn't track the actual conversion of the reservation being booked. All right, so this is our first attempt with the client. And I'm sure you can tell by this point, we try to do a balanced approach usually. We just don't know what's going to work. So we started with a top of funnel campaign, optimizing for website sessions. You can see it's green, so it worked great. And then we created a middle of funnel campaign that optimized for those reservation button clicks, right? So these clicks that are circled in red, we're basically optimizing for lots of those clicks to make it into that third-party reservation system. But unfortunately, you can see it's red, which means it was not sustainable and it was not working. And then finally, the most important part at the bottom of the funnel, purchases of wine and then joining the wine club, unfortunately is red, so it was not working. So middle and bottom of funnel, we're having lots of breakdowns. The rate at which those were happening against our ad spend was way too expensive, so something had to change. So we took it back to the drawing board, and we realized that e-com purchases, they just weren't possible. So we actually just backed away from that. We didn't build that into the next iteration of what the funnel could look like. We simplified the overall funnel substantially. And then we allocated zero budget towards the bottom of the funnel, right? So we're starting to get into like the long-term play and not focus on the bottom of the funnel, which seems crazy. And then we anticipated offline actions within the funnel to help Facebook. So we started to notice that Facebook doesn't have to be the sole channel that pulls someone from finding out about the brand for the first time to them becoming a club member. There's some other things that can take place to help pull the person through that whole journey for them. So here's what the new funnel looks like. So we basically just created a top of funnel campaign, and it also helped that we consolidated the learnings into one single campaign instead of having that budget split across multiple campaigns and trying to exit learning. And we just optimized for those booked reservation clicks. And like I mentioned, we couldn't track the actual reservation. The client could on their side. But in terms of Facebook ads, we had issues getting that data into the actual ad buying platform. So we're just trying to get tons of clicks of people who are showing they're interested in learning more about the booked reservations or tastings that they can take. And then you'll see that there's a clock there. So that means some time has gone by. And then the individual would then show up for their wine tasting, let's say 2-3 weeks later. And then we noticed that they would then purchase wine once they made it to the actual tasting room. And then they sometimes would then join the wine club. And you can see both parts of the top of funnel and bottom of funnel are green. And so for the true value of ads, so if we look at just the ad click and then the booked reservation, the reservation value, right? So how much did the person spend just to book their reservation? Here's what the KPIs look like. So we spent about $20,000 over the whole year of 2023 for the client, $12 CPMs. It's a little high, but that's okay. It's a top of funnel metric. For the click-through rate, 6%, very, very high click-through rate. Like I mentioned, looking for 1% usually. So good to see that the ad copy and creative are resonating with the target audience. Cost per acquisition is about $80. And then for our revenue, $73,000. And then $73,000 against $29,000 spent is a 2.5 ROAS. So upfront, the client's making good money. 2.5 is a solid ROAS. But then what does it look like when the person books their reservation and then they make it to the actual winery and they're having a great time and start to buy bottles of wine and they start to join the wine club and they're feeling pretty good in the moment because they already had their tasting and they're buying more wine. The true value of the ads is $29,000 spent. It's still the same amount, but my client's revenue became $198,000 off of the $29,000 spent. So the true value is a 6.8 ROAS off of this long-term strategy that we're running. And so then you can see what the funnel looks like. So we had a 2.5 ROAS just off the Facebook ads. And then if we compound the Facebook ads with real world offline experiences, we get a 6.8 ROAS. And the client's happy, I'm happy, everyone's happy. And so this is a really good example of you don't have to use Facebook to be all parts of your funnel. Try to incorporate real world actions if the person has to have a real world experience. And the combination of the two, if you play it right, you can have an amazing return for your company or the clients you work with. All right, and then our second last section is a balance strategy. So if we want to take short-term and long-term strategies and marry the two, we can take a look at what that looks like. So obviously all parts of the funnel are being worked: awareness, consideration, conversion. So we're trying to get impressions, maybe generate some emails, get people into the mailing list, see some add carts. We're going to get some demos, definitely some purchases at the bottom of the funnel, all of it. And so you can use multiple channels to really try to work this. For this presentation, we're just in Facebook ads, but outside of Facebook, maybe run some Facebook ads and then try to build your SEO. And SEO is a very long-term play, but you could use Facebook ads to get some immediate revenue to work the bottom of the funnel, and then slowly build SEO, and you'll start to see some top and middle funnel. KPIs start to build, and the combination of the two could work really well. And then another thing with a balanced approach is that you need larger budgets to really execute it the right way. Because if you're going to work all three parts of the funnel, then you need budgets that are substantial for each part of the funnel, for each of the three parts. And it can be a little expensive to make sure you're exiting the learning phases and you're seeing the results you need, and the ad account can learn correctly. So I would just say, a budget of maybe like $5,000 per month, you can start to get into the ballpark of doing this the right way. All right, so let's apply this using Facebook ads. So our client, the events calendar, which is a plugin on WordPress. And so this is a different example than the prior to. The last two were in the beverage space. So I wanted to mix it up with a different type of case study. And so, yeah, like I mentioned, WordPress Calendar, you can add their plugin onto any website, and then it allows visitors to the website to select an event that they want and book tickets, etc., through the website. So for our client, their main goal was free downloads. They offered since it's a WordPress plugin, there's all the plugins have free downloads that you can download. So that was one of their main KPIs. Another KPI was request a demo, and then purchases of the software itself, which is obviously the primary KPI. So for this client, we developed a full funnel. We did top, middle, and bottom. We did strong audience exclusion. So if someone's in top of funnel, we had typed out the creative and the copy to be so specific to each person's location in the funnel that we'd use exclusions to make sure that they would stay in top of funnel unless they had clicked onto certain pages on the website that had demonstrated that they're ready for middle of funnel. So like maybe you had added something to cart or something like that. You'll start to move into like middle of funnel. Or maybe you had viewed certain pages, like the free download page, or maybe start to click one of the CTAs for a free download. You'll then move into middle of funnel and no longer see top of funnel ads. So it takes quite a bit of coordination to really make sure each person stays in each part of the funnel. For top of funnel, we're just looking to add just a ton of cookies to just as many computers as possible, as cheaply as possible within our target audience. And then we did a lot of creative refreshes for middle and bottom of funnel. Because middle and bottom of funnel tends to be smaller audiences, Facebook tends to go and find them over and over. So you need to refresh those quite a bit for middle and bottom, since the audiences are smaller and the ad frequency will start to really stack up and become pretty high. All right, so here's our first attempt at the funnel. So we did a top of funnel campaign, optimizing for website sessions. Then we did a middle of funnel campaign, optimizing for leads. And so leads could look like request a demo, right? So we would collect your email address when you would request a demo. And then if you asked for a free download, you had to trade your email to get the free download. And then at the very bottom of the funnel was purchases of the software. And so here's our performance. So you can see $23,000 spent, $8 CPMs, which is slightly high, but it's pretty good. Click-through rate actually wasn't the best. I wanted a 1%, but we're at a 0.7. For demos, we had 4,100 demos, generated about $100,000 of revenue for a 4.3 ROAS. So really good. That was our first attempt, and we basically got it right. And we just started really optimizing each part of the funnel to get greater and greater efficiency on our ROAS. And so here's what the overall marketing funnel looked like. So you can see top of funnel, a 0.11 ROAS. Not the best, you know, if that was the entire funnel, the client wouldn't be very happy. But then when we start to look at the middle of funnel, so they're being retargeted off the top of funnel to then make it into the middle of the funnel, you can see we got a 3.24 ROAS. Starting to see some really good results there. And then at the very bottom of the funnel, we see a 5.81. And so, of course, top of funnel is spending a majority of the budget. So it does drag down the ROAS, the overall ROAS across all three parts of the funnel. But when it balances out, it comes out to a 4.3 ROAS. So really good results, and client's happy, and of course, we're happy as well as the agency. All right, so getting into stakeholder guidance. So for this section, I really want to put together some advice for other marketers who are trying to determine whether a short-term or long-term or balanced strategy is right for their company, and then how to work with others who already have preconceived notions of what strategy they want to go down, and how to work with them, essentially. All right, so like I mentioned, stakeholders can have a very focused strategy that they want to go down. So they might have a preconceived notion that they want to do maybe a short-term strategy, and they're very stuck on that. And so it's always best, as the agency, we've worked with a number of different clients, And it's always best to try to understand their idea or their plan, and don't give me any thoughts on what will go wrong with that yet, but just really try to understand and hear them out. And then typically as an agency, what we'll do is when we have clients who are very strong-minded, we'll just give warnings on the outcome. We'll really try to tell them that, based on our experience, it's not going to be the outcome that you're expecting or hoping. And most clients will actually, trust us as the agency, and we can start to work on the strategy that we know will work. So I'm going to do some role playing just between myself. And these are some of the complaints that I've seen the most for short term and long term, and how to essentially, negotiate or compromise with that person. All right, so one of the main complaints I see for short-term strategies, and this is the individual on the left is basically very into short-term, and all they're focused on is really just revenue, and they want to know every single week how much revenue did we produce. And so one thing I would say to that is you need at least 2 weeks per test to that person. You would tell them that you need 2 weeks per test, and we need statistical significance. And if we don't have that, there's not enough data to know if that test even works. So while asking every week if we produce revenue, I'm sure there's a lot of pressure in some organizations. Really, you should ask every 2 weeks. And I know that they will continue to ask, but I would just re-emphasize to individuals like that you need to ask every 2 weeks. And then for short term, another complaint is, can we offer a new discount every single month? And so the response to that is, prospects will start to learn when you are giving out discounts. And so they'll just wait for those sales, and it lowers your AOV. So overall, don't diminish the brand, just wait until the holidays. And during the holidays, the buyer intent, so like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the buyer intent is just extremely high. And so you can capitalize on these people at the right times without diminishing your own brand. So I would just wait until October, November, December to give out those discounts. And then another short-term complaint is we need more sales. How can the same budget go further? And so if the client's company is large enough, then you can definitely do a full funnel approach, which is a balanced approach with the software company that I was showing you guys. And so what I've seen is if you can get your balanced approach correct, you can actually maintain your revenue, but all of your top of funnel metrics will be much greater. So you can get way more traffic to the website. You can get way more emails being collected, way more requested demos, or whatever is most important, or the type of business that the client has. You can get way more of those top and middle funnel metrics, but your bottom of funnel KPIs will probably stay the same, right? Like your purchases will probably stay the same, but that top of funnel and middle of funnel engagement is worth something, just not today, right? It's worth something in the future. So that'd be my response to someone who says that type of complaint. And then on the long-term side, so someone might say, I think we should never use any discounts at any time. And I would definitely say, just going back to like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, when the buyer intent is extremely high and you actually need discounts to compete in your space. If you're the only brand that's not offering a discount during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, your ads will fall to the very bottom, and there's no point in even running ads. And I've actually tried that before because I had a client complain about this, about never running ads. So really just save all of those discounts for the holidays, and you can go, since you've been saving up all the discounts and not doing them at any other point in the year, you can offer amazing discounts and really take advantage of the buyer intent during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And the last complaint is, and this is an interesting one. So the client or the individual at your company, so maybe you're working with the CMO or CEO, and he might say to you, hey, no revenue is fine. Let's work on our brand awareness. Let's figure out what messaging works. And then, so that's a long-term thought, right? You're looking at the long-term future. We're not focused on revenue. And then 3 months go by, and I've had clients go, we need revenue immediately. We need, in the next 2 weeks, we need revenue. and that's fine. Things change, unfortunately, sometimes things don't go as our clients expect outside of marketing. And so what we really try to do is in the very beginning, we really try to really emphasize, are you sure zero revenue is okay? And we'll really reposition that question over and over until they might say, actually, we need some revenue. Actually, maybe that is our focus, because sometimes our clients aren't sure what they truly need. So then we'll actually tell them, well, let's do a balanced approach, and we'll try to focus on revenue, but let's see if we can get some balance in the ad account. And if we do see that we're starting to produce revenue, then we'll start to truncate the overall marketing funnel so that it just becomes a funnel based on purchases. So that's something that we've done for a few clients in the past. All right, so for the last part of the presentation, so we have a free 20-minute review of your Facebook ads account. You can just scan the QR code, and we have a few slots. And if you guys aren't sure, like let's say you have a client that's in a industry that's outside of the case studies that I gave, feel free to use this QR code. We can schedule some time, and I'll personally speak to you, and we can look in your ad account and take a look at what's working or what's not. I can give you some advice. And that's it for today. Thanks for listening.
Brenton, thank you so much for sharing your valuable tips, real cases, and ideas. Your presentation was incredibly interesting and packed with actionable tips, and I personally gained a lot of new ideas. Guys, I've duplicated the link to free 20 minutes review here in the live chat. Just to let you know about that, grab it and connect with Brenton. Okay, so let's get to the questions. I can see several questions in the chat. The first question from Helen, what are some signs that a long-term Facebook ad campaign needs adjustment or a complete overhaul?
Yeah, so let's see. So for long-term, so usually there's KPIs that you'll want to speak to your stakeholder, or if, I don't know if you're an agency or you work at a specific company, but speak to your stakeholder about KPIs, right? And they'll tell you what they want at each part of the funnel. And maybe they might not know what like a good cost per session is. Most stakeholders don't know that. But ask them what they want for their KPIs, and then look for some baselines. So that if they say like a KPI that are like an outcome that is unachievable, you can compare that against a baseline, and then try to bring them back down into like a realm of like a reasonable KPI. And then as you go through your ads and you start to optimize, really lean on those KPIs, and you'll start to know like, oh, this middle funnel campaign that's optimizing for add to carts is getting way too expensive. So we'll need to start to switch that out. And usually what I'll do is creating new creative and ad copy is a lot. It's very time consuming. It's a lot of work. So I'll actually keep the same ads, but then just test new audiences. And that could be a quick win. So you don't have to like have all this new creative develop, and a developer has to get involved, and you got to write all these ads. And sometimes I've saved a massive amount of work just by testing new audiences. And those audiences could be like a broad United States audience. If it's okay for the client to target that broad of an audience, maybe do a 5% lookalike. And then maybe do like there's probably some data that's like floating around in the company. So maybe it's like females between the ages of 25 to 40, it depends on what the product is, and then create that specific ad set as well, and let those 3 ad sets sit under a single campaign and let them compete for the budget. I know it was a lot.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Makes sense. Okay, let's get to another question. What do you think about utilizing automated tools for managing Facebook ad campaigns?
What would be an example of like the AI I was referring to?
Okay, great. Question from Kevs. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. How are you tracking? How are you tracking the metrics
Yeah.
result?
Yeah. All the top of funnel metrics obviously will just show up inside of Facebook ads, like clicks to landing page views, etc. But for all of the bottom of funnel stuff, we use Google Tag Manager. Just get the GTM script onto the back end of the website, and then we'll just tag up all of the most important events using Google Tag Manager.
Okay, thanks. Solomia writes, thank you, was very interesting. I absolutely agree. Okay, I can't see any other questions in the chat, but I have several questions, frankly. Okay, one question appears. Hi, Brenton. Does Facebook works for high ticket SaaS and mid SaaS products?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so the to exit the learning phase, you need 50 events in 1 week, and an event. So let's say you want to optimize for the actual purchase. The high ticket sell, you're not going to get a ton of people buying that high ticket sell inside of Facebook. So it's more difficult for you to actually exit the learning phase. That doesn't mean it won't work out. And this isn't quite SaaS, but I had a client that was selling tickets to a conference at $600 per ticket. And so they spent about 4,000, got about 5,000 back at a high ticket sell. Never exited the learning phase, which is fine. But what I would say is experiment with one step higher in the funnel. Like, so if you can figure out like the proxy that would lead to them then making the purchase, you'll get more of those events. And so you can train against that. You can train Facebook ads against that, and you might exit the learning phase. But what I would do is I would just start with optimizing for the exact event you want. You never know, it might work. Try that for a couple weeks, and then try to optimize. If that's not working, then try to optimize for the event that's one step higher in the funnel.
Great, thank you. Another question, I suppose it's about recording and presentation. Can we get the breakdown of the webinar for references in future? As for the recording, it will be saved publicly on YouTube. You can rewatch it. Also, the presentation will be available. It will be sent to all registered attendees. Also, it will be saved under the recording of the video on YouTube when webinar ends. Okay, I can't see any other questions. One question, I prepared 3 questions, but you answered some of them. So, how can businesses effectively balance the budget between short-term and long-term Facebook ad strategies?
Yeah, so for the budget, like I mentioned, for the balance side of it, you need a pretty large budget to do that. And I usually put, these are like really rough numbers, but like 70% of the budget, top of funnel, 20% of the budget, middle of funnel, and then 10% of the budget for bottom of the funnel. Did I say that right? 70% top, 20% middle, and then 10% for the bottom. And so that tends to work really well, but you need a larger budget to do that. And then in terms of like the short term, you might be able to optimize just for the purchase. And if you can do that, then you'd put 100% of your budget into that single campaign that's optimizing for purchases. But it tends to work best for lower price point items. It could work for larger items as well. Like I had another client that was selling $5,000 gym equipment and single campaign optimizing, and it was just working. Like he was making, like he has to sell a couple of them. You sell 3 of them, make 15,000. You spent 3, and that was working really well. So that's a pretty easy budget breakdown for short term.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a good suggestion, and it's great you have a lot of cases to share. Great, thank you. It appears we've addressed all the questions that have come up. As we near the end of the session, I want to turn to you, Brenton. Is there anything you'd like to add or emphasize before we wrap up?
No, just thanks for listening. And if you guys need any help with your marketing, feel free to reach out to us at twibiagency.com. That's TWIBI. And then I'll make sure, Elena, that my Calendly link is also in the show notes. And that's it for today.
No, thanks. I like it. Thank you so much, Brenton, again for sharing valuable tips, cases, insights. Guys, be sure to connect with Brenton on LinkedIn. It's in the live chat, and follow SendPulse social media to stay connected. Once again, a big thank you to all of you for joining us today. Your participation means a lot to us. Stay tuned to our social media for updates and future webinars and events, and we'd love to have you join us again. Thank you, and I wish you all a wonderful week ahead. Goodbye and take care.